Welcome back, guys, to Pastor's Coffee. This is episode 29. We missed you last week. I'm sorry. Stiff, how are we?
Doing pretty good. It's been a kind of a crazy week. Not really crazy as yours, but you can get into that if you want to. Um, but I had to do a lot of stuff in my office here. Repainted a wall, if you can't tell. Um, and then so I've been moving stuff out of my office, waiting for people to paint it. And so thanks to Linda, Scott, if they ever watch this, I don't know if they watch this or not, but thank you guys for painting my office because I absolutely hate painting. It's one of the worst things in the world.
It's a good job.
Um,
It looks like a good job, yeah.
it looked great. So next week I'll probably be doing some more decorating and stuff, just my desk in here as we speak here. Um, but tonight we have a cookout at my house for the youth and a slip and slide. Some other things there, so that should be fun
Be
down
cool.
my hill. So we will see how that goes. But this weekend, no Sunday night service for Father's Day,
Yep.
so no, didn't have to prepare for Sunday night. We've been doing Wednesday night, so I've been doing stuff on there. But how's your week been going?
Um, yeah, just kind of all over the place, just with bunch of different stuff going on. Mackenzie and I had our 1 year anniversary on Monday, so that was good. She worked till 4, and then we had obviously some other stuff that me and you talked about go on, but we had a nice dinner and a good evening together, um, and then just some different stuff with uh, preparing and different lessons, um, and preaching again this Sunday. So trying to prepare well for that. Um,
Still
continue
forgetting the
to.
master's classes.
Oh, I didn't. That's been my number one thing, just trying to get it done so I could focus on everything else the rest of the week. But I got them done. They weren't great um, jobs, I don't think, but
As
they are
long as we turn
submitted.
them in.
Yeah, they're submitted. So that's all I'm really worried about. Um, but yeah, it's been a good week. We are leaving for vacation after church on Sunday morning, so really looking forward to that, to get away and breathe for a second and
Yeah,
just be with family. So looking forward to that.
yeah. Do you have anything for Father's Day, or are you guys just traveling kind of that day?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, I'll be with so the five of us, my mom, dad, brother, and Mackenzie. Obviously, we're going to be riding up together. So I'll be with my dad the whole time. Mackenzie met with her dad earlier this week, and then I'll see my grandfather that evening on my dad's side, but I won't see my other grandfather here that day. But yeah, it's pretty much just traveling because we want to get there. It's about a 7 hour drive, so right
Yeah,
after
not bad.
right after church, try and
Yeah,
get there.
yeah. We have a cookout tomorrow.
Okay.
For Father's Day with my stepdad's side of the family.
Yeah.
Um, and then I won't see my grandpa this Sunday.
Okay.
Just with ministry and everything. I guess I
Yeah.
don't have Sunday night, but we'll just be here, and so that'll be good. But I'm looking forward to that. This week's topic, a little bit segueing into that, um, something that I think this world can struggle with. Um, and I was watching. I don't know if you watched it at all yet. Um, but Logan Paul, not to bring up to say that he's a great guy, but Logan Paul um, was talking to Cliff and his son. And this was one of the topics that they brought up too. Um, but loving somebody that is not loving to you, or somebody that doesn't just deserve love in your eyes.
Yep.
Um, and I think we can both say confidently that the first thing that we can say to that is the gospel, um, and that Jesus has died for us who are undeserving of love, and God has commanded us to show the same love that He has. Um, but we can say that. But what are some practical ways that you can look at loving people in your life who has wronged you, or you can view as, oh, they don't deserve love?
Yep.
Um, what's some advice or some practical ways that you um, would say to somebody who's struggling with that? And I think who's struggling with that is every single person. So
Yeah, yeah, put us into that. Um, I would say, just as you said, and we talked about it before we even started the conversation, was I mean, just the gospel is that perfect picture of it. Not just undeserving, but to say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. The very people to put him on the cross, and then
yeah,
he has that immediate reaction, not just like time to think about and get over it, but in the moment to forgive them on the spot. And I think that that's something that I struggle with. I can forgive. I can forgive, and I try to, but it takes me some time depending on the circumstance, and
yeah,
it's not just something that I just immediately get over. And
hmm
again, I know a lot of people can relate to that, but the biblical model to forgive on the spot, and to be able to trust the Lord in whatever circumstance that you get placed in. I think some practical ways though, and I've had instances. I'm sure everybody can say, I don't want to give specific instances, just depending on who's watching this, but um, yeah, there's been some times that there's been some things done to me and done to other people that I really care about in
hmm
my life, that it's just tough for me to shake that image. Like every time that I look at them, that pops up, and I have to forgive them again. Even when I think
yeah,
I've gotten past that situation, I either see them or I hear them do something again, and it's like, man, I remember again. And true forgiveness is, obviously, Christ says, I've cast it as far away from you as the east is from the west. It's never going to touch again. He's
yeah,
forgot it. And man, I feel like I've forgiven, but I haven't forgotten, and that isn't true forgiveness.
hmm
So to I think some practical ways is, again, thinking of the gospel, constantly reminding yourself of how many times we've wronged Christ, um, and then these situations that come up to us. But I've given this advice before, and it's not good advice. And as I've grown, I've come to know. Um, a lot of people will say, well, you just need to distance yourself from that person. And in time, in spurts, and if you're not ready to get over that, maybe that's okay. Maybe you need space to really get within yourself. But I don't always think that's the best thing, because
hmm
when you give yourself distance and try to just distance yourself, now it's different between forgiveness and protecting yourself and your family. Because if
yeah,
you're in a situation where someone is causing harm, not necessarily physical, but spiritual and mental, that every time you're around them, it just doesn't go well. Sure, distance yourself, and that's a different conversation. But if it's something
hmm
you can't forgive them, it's a grudge that you can't get past. Distance only. It's like putting a band-aid over a gunshot wound. You think you got
yeah,
past it, but as soon as it comes back up, all those feelings are going to come right back, and you're not truly past it. So I don't think I think distancing yourself from the situation can help you get your thoughts right, but it can't be a sustainable solution. So
yeah,
I do think, obviously, the biblical model is when someone's wronged you, you address them directly. You go to them directly. And I think a lot of times now there's some situations that are so beyond what I'm even suggesting here. But
yeah,
for offenses that we do struggle to forgive certain times, sometimes when you go to approach them, you get a perspective that you weren't thinking of at all. And sometimes what was done to you was done with a different intention that you've been stirring up in your mind. There's been
hmm
times where something was said about me, and immediately I jumped to a conclusion, and I saw a situation a certain way, and I avoided the conversation because I thought that that's what they wanted. But then when I did have a conversation with them, like, man, that was not what I thought
yeah,
at all. And it helps you get some common ground. And communication is so key in forgiveness.
yeah,
Sometimes, and again, this conversation, how to love the unlovable. Sometimes that person that you're trying to forgive doesn't even want the forgiveness, and that's even another challenge. But we're
yeah,
called to forgive even when they don't want it, even when they don't even see that they've done you wrong, or
hmm
maybe don't care to. So it's a conversation that, and again, I think we can have a lot of discourse, but I want to pass it to you here soon. Is just um, modeling. the gospel, but then being trusting enough in the Lord, not in yourself, but to confront the situation, to be bold enough to address it, to have those tough conversations in order to move forward. Because the more
Yeah.
that you avoid those conversations and distance yourself, you might think that you are not escalating the situation, but what you're doing is just allowing that
Hmm.
situation to build and build. And then when you finally do get to address it, it's going to be that much worse because you didn't
For sure.
address it. So go ahead.
Yeah. No, I agree with pretty much everything you said there, and I think that you said it well. And I think something to add to it would be when that person doesn't accept your forgiveness. That doesn't make your forgiveness just unworthy or
Yep.
anything.
They don't have to accept
You've
it.
done your part, and you've done what Jesus has called you to do, whether they accept your forgiveness or not. Um,
Absolutely.
and that's in your own mindset, and then that's between them and the Lord about
Yep.
them accepting your forgiveness or not. Um, but I think especially for me, I'm a very big avoider when it comes to doing stuff like that, and I do distance myself sometimes just in the wrong way of pushing it to the side and saying, well, I'm just not going to deal with this. And I do think that's wrong. I think it is good to distance and collect your thoughts, but when
Sure.
you pushing it and keep pushing it away, um, it's not going to help. But I think just the key point is just truly remembering in your heart that Jesus has done that for you. And I
Yep.
think if we can find satisfaction in that, then it should come a lot easier to forgive others. Not saying it's going to be easy, but
Yep.
it should help. When you realize that you are undeserving of any forgiveness from anybody,
Yeah.
it makes it a lot easier. And I've come to realize that. And I think another thing that I think everybody struggles with, not just you, is when you have moved past it and forgot and forgiven the person, but you don't really forget it, and not really true forgiveness there. I
Right.
think a lot of us struggle with that, um, and I think that's okay. You're gonna keep remembering it. We are human, and I think as long as you still have that forgiveful attitude, um, just because you forgive somebody doesn't make what they've done right or anything, and push past it. It's still you still can forgive somebody and still work on the wrong what they've done wrong.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so, but I think just ultimately we just have to continue looking back onto the gospel and seeing what Jesus has done for us. And I think
Yep.
a lot of people have problems with that. If either one that they're trying to forgive when they haven't let Jesus forgive them of their sins. I
Yeah.
think that a lot of people's problems is that they're truly not saved,
Makes it
and
that
they
much more
and
difficult.
they and
Yeah.
they think that they're kind of this righteous person when
Mm.
truly they're not. And I think we see this in the church a lot, and that's how people leave the church and over just simple issues like this and
Yeah.
not being forgiveful or forgiving. Um, but we can go on for a while, but I think ultimately, if we look back at the gospel, that will help a tremendous amount. Um, and so,
I
anything
want
else?
to well, I want to shift it a little bit, like because we've been focused on forgiveness, and that's I think I've said this in the podcast, but that's saying, and again, I don't want to call out anybody that's watching this. I haven't said this, but I've thought this, because it seems right. But the phrase "I'll forgive, but I'll never forget" it's so unbiblical. It's not like Christ at
Yeah.
all. I mean
Yeah.
that and again, there's a caveat there because we can't force ourselves to not remember something.
Yeah.
Our mind, sometimes the situation will just come back up. We thought we've moved past and then it comes back up. But more so what that's getting at there is not that like you're brainwashing yourself into not remembering something and blocking a memory out. That's not necessarily the thing. It's when you're forgiving someone, when you say that you've forgiven someone, you're not supposed to ever bring up that situation ever again. If
Yeah.
you've truly said that you've forgiven that, you won't use that against that person anymore. If that person has sought you out for forgiveness, even if they haven't wanted to use forgiveness. Now, again, we can get in the kind of muddy water there because if someone continues to do something to you, yes, you are supposed to forgive them 7 times 77,
Yeah.
so an infinite amount. But that doesn't mean that you have to keep putting yourself and your family in that situation to keep getting hurt in that way. You can forgive someone and still protect your circle from it happening again. If that person isn't seeking forgiveness and they're still going to continue this way that's harmful to everyone else, then yes, absolutely distance yourself, and that's what you're called to do is to protect you and yours. But I do think what's interesting here is forgiveness is true love. True love is forgiveness and recognizing each other's faults and trying to love the way Christ is loved. But I think that we could take it a little bit further in that first impressions are everything a lot of times too. And I think a lot of times, especially in like Christian circles um or even just making friends with other people and creating relationships, we see something that they do before we even get to know them, and we automatically um assume things about them without getting to know them. I would always crack
Mhm.
up. I hope he's watching this. But I remember one of our last days at school, we started telling giving stories of first impressions of everybody. And Steiner's first impression of me is the funniest thing you will ever see ever.
Is
But
it true though? We don't know.
it is not true. It is not true. I was not wearing what he said I was wearing. I definitely was probably acting like how he said I acted. But we'll have to get him on here to tell that one. That one's hilarious. But I think I've seen that in church now too. I see these people interacting with other people, and I automatically assume things about them before I even go to them. And loving, if we're supposed to model Christ's love, loving unconditionally, and again, that's when we're forgiven. I get that, but starting a relationship, giving others the benefit of the doubt, because that's what we've been given.
Mhm.
We've been given an opportunity to make mistakes and to grow. And if we're going to love, we have to set that model for everyone else. And I think putting yourself out there, you know, loving your neighbor comes with a lot of different things, and it comes with a lot of uncomfortable things. It comes
Yeah.
from people, comes from talking with people that you don't necessarily want to. A lot of times, it
Yeah.
comes from doing things with people. Going out to eat with people, going out and doing just different things to build relationships that you don't necessarily want to. A lot of
Yeah.
times, and I know that's
Yeah.
difficult, but
Mhm.
guys, loving people is being there for people and showing up for people who don't have it. And I think, especially for us as ministry leaders, and I don't do a good enough job about this, but just for Christians watching this, to love your neighbor means to show up, to be there for them. Not necessarily just giving them like I think the world thinks that you love the least fortunate people by just giving money, and then you can feel good about yourself at that point.
Yeah.
you know Time is even more valuable than that, and if you're going to give your time to people, I think it speaks volumes to your character and your heart and
Mhm.
your willingness to love. And I think that we have to be more intentional, and again, we are both so busy and have so many different things going on, but being intentional about being there for others and giving others our time and
Yeah.
being a listening ear, because God inclined his ear to us. I was reading Psalm 116, I think it was, a couple days ago. And I think just the image of us meaning enough to God for him it says God inclines his ear to us. It's
Mhm.
like this crowded room, a lot of noise going on, and he wants to hear what you have to say so much that he bends down and gives his ear to you to make sure he hangs on to every word. And obviously, God doesn't need to do that, but it's this imagery that God
Yeah.
intentionally cares for what we say. And man, there's some conversations I have that I try to be involved, and then I tune myself out and I just allow them to keep talking, but I'm not intentionally listening. And you
Mhm.
just being there for someone speaks volumes, especially when you don't have very much other places to go. And for you
Mhm.
to show up and listen speaks volumes. And there's so many different ways, but I thought that was a practical way that kind
Yeah.
of gets neglected sometimes and doesn't get talked about enough. I've seen
Yeah.
it in my life and in ministry. Just the impact that it can have. You just showing up and being an ear to somebody. Um, so
And I think if we look at Job and his friends, not that his friends were
yeah,
great advice
yeah.
givers, and I
But
mean
they
you
showed up.
look at their advice, and their advice was horrible,
Yeah,
but for 7 days they sat with him in silence, and I
they
mean
showed up. Yeah,
that's something that I'm sure spoke volume to Job, and to see that those three people were there for him, and in his most vulnerable time,
yeah,
I think that's a great point.
yeah.
Um, But anyway, before we talk about it for another hour and we'll make this podcast way too long, we'll
Yeah.
move on. We would appreciate it if you guys would give us a couple topics in the comments.
Please.
Not to call y'all out, but we are calling you out because
Yeah,
apparently
you deserve
I
it.
call out. So we forgive you, but if you can now, if we can work on that, commenting
Yeah, we
some
can't bring
topics.
it up again now. We can't
Yeah,
bring it
now
up
we can. Well,
now.
maybe not. I don't know. But so this week, I wanted to do something a little different, and I'll introduce this. What we're going to talk about. We're going to do a top three this time,
Yeah,
simply because we won't have that many, unless we're really digging deep. But this week we're going to do our top three most unpopular opinion. Okay. And I'm gonna let you go first if you have one. If not, the power of editing will work for us. So,
number one, just give myself some time to think. LeBron James is the GOAT. Obviously, LeBron James is the best basketball player of all time.
uh,
Unpopular opinion. Um, I guess in our world, it won't be for this podcast, but um, in our world today, church is essential, obviously. But I think let me get a good one. Um, you already said your first one. You go first. You go
okay,
first
I'll
because
go first.
I don't want to steal yours, but that's the only one that I can think of now because you said it. So you say it, and then it'll make my mind go.
Okay, and the reason that I brought this up is because I was thinking about this last night, and um, people, and by people I mean parents, parents need to tell their children that they cannot sing. And I don't, if anybody's in the church listening to this, I am not talking about you and your children. Mainly, I am talking about, well, one, people on Instagram Reels who they post their kids singing and they're like, oh my goodness, this is the next Taylor Swift. I'm sorry, but your child sounds like a seal. Okay, they are not good singers. Okay, listen, we talked about this
Oh
before the
no,
podcast. The national anthem girl,
that
absolutely
was
horrible. She's gonna look
oh.
on. She's gonna look back on that and say, "Wow, why did my parents let me do that?"
Just the
So
confidence was so loud.
it
That's what
was
was
so.
so sad.
It was honoring that dude though.
She,
They panned the camera up to the seat.
oh man, it was bad. It was
But
really bad.
we could have avoided it all with a simple
Yeah,
dad telling her, listen,
yeah,
maybe singing isn't you.
yes,
Singing, we can all sing, just not publicly sometimes. So,
yeah.
um, anyway, that's
Um,
my first one. I do got to think of a couple more, but
yeah,
I have
I'm
a
I'm
couple.
struggling too.
Um,
I'll say this. Um, yeah, I think that kind of goes with everything. Um, the fact that we need to be, especially in their younger years. I think parents should be honest with their kids, not just drill them and tell them they're
maybe,
awful at
yeah,
certain
don't
things,
do what I say,
but but
but be a
just
little kind
but
about it.
but be honest. Don't put them into positions to get made fun of. When you know that it's going to go that way,
Hmm.
because it's going to do more harm than good. But I think this kind of goes along those same lines, and I don't know if this is super unpopular. There for a while, I think it was, but people are starting to get more on board with this. But I think participation trophies and participation awards, where you didn't have to work for anything, um, do more harm than good.
Yeah,
Um, Especially growing
and
up,
we're just drilling
when
on the kids nowadays.
I know that's where my mind is. I hate to go there, but I think obviously you want complimenting. There is nothing wrong with complimenting your kid, and you're called to. There's nothing wrong with complimenting people. You need to, but when you give people a sense of security where there isn't a sense of security there,
Hmm.
I think you can get them to be more vulnerable and susceptible to a world that is quick to cut down people
Yeah.
and to tear down. And it's not right. I'm just saying, as far as protecting your kids and protecting your family, it's better to be honest about the dangers of certain things
Hmm.
and to really make sure that they're aware of it before you put them in front of national TV and leave them open to something
National
like
TV.
that. So
Oh, it's horrible. Anyway, before I go on more of a rant with,
this is a tough one,
someone needs
man.
to tell Fergie that that did not
Oh
sound good
man,
before she started. Like the people
I
not
think
here,
I think she heard it, man. I think she knows now. I
she
think she
should
knows.
know now. If she doesn't,
It's a tough one.
okay. This is my number two, and I'll have to explain this one a little bit. Um,
Okay, trying to think too.
People who like, and I'm gonna say really spicy foods are lying. Okay,
What?
there is no way that you can put a really like if that you're going to B-dubs
Yeah.
and you just look down at the very bottom
Well,
and you're
very
like,
bottom.
This is what I'm talking about, really spicy. Because
Okay.
okay, I'm not
I
talking about.
like spice. I like
I know.
spice.
Okay, I'm talking really spicy. Like you put a ghost pepper in your mouth and you're like, wow, that was just really good. Nobody does that, but there's people out
Yeah.
there that just order the most hottest wing and they're like, man, that's got some good flavor. No, it doesn't.
You're doing
It's
it for show. You're doing it
absolutely
for show. Yeah.
it's for show. Nobody
Yes, I
orders.
agree with you there. I agree with you there.
Okay, nobody absolutely
Yeah.
really spicy. I'm not talking about, oh, it gives you a kick.
I
But like
like kick. Yeah.
but I'm talking when your mouth is absolutely on fire, there's no taste there.
Yeah. Yeah. You're numb. You're numb at that point. Yeah. Oh goodness, that's true. That is okay. Unpopular opinion. Um, the way voting is in this country,
Oh, we got political.
this is political. I'll probably get some hate here, but
That's okay.
it's just an unpopular opinion. Um, Voting is not, and again, we're not a true democracy, but I think we should stop kind of portraying the election as a democracy. If it is, I mean,
Hmm.
if the electoral college isn't on board, then the president is not getting elected.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I think, popular opinion, our voting system needs change, and that's probably not that unpopular to an extent, but in a way that, um,
I'm sure somebody just hated you.
yeah, probably somebody's really upset about that. Um, but that would be my next one, I guess.
Yeah, with election season
Yeah,
on the
just
way.
had me thinking about that. Yeah.
Um, my number three here. And this one I know I'll just get hate for it. Um, and I could say some others, but I'm gonna just save myself from saying those
Just
ones.
saying.
Um, but my number three, and this may gross some of you guys out, but this is a
Oh
food one.
goodness.
Um, as a kid, and I still really like it. Um, I don't do it as often, but at my grandma's house, I used to live with my grandma and grandpa, and my mom till I was about 12. The cheese at the IGA, if you know what I'm talking about, that's the grocery store name.
I'm not sure.
IGA. It's like actual cheese, not the
Okay.
craft stuff. Okay. I would take and I would put out a slice of cheese, and then I would take a little bit of bottle of ranch and just put it on top of the cheese, and that would be some of the most amazing. That's like one of my favorite food combinations as a kid, and I still enjoy it. You don't look so good.
I'm looking at you a different way now.
Listen,
That
okay.
that's an aggressive thing to say. That was wild. That was wild.
Ranch is my most favorite thing in this world. But
I
that
love ranch, but
it hit different on that cheese though.
that's insane to say. That was insane.
Oh, I apologize, but
That's
that is
extremely unpopular. That one beats
that
everything, I
it might
think.
be an only me thing. So,
I
which
mean, I
makes
don't
it
even know how you get to try that. That's wild.
well when you come home from school and you just we just always had cheese and ranch was always available and it just became a thing.
I will say this. We'll go to food, and this is because I'm having a tough time. But the third one, I guess, pickles belong on every sandwich.
Every sandwich. What if you don't like pickles?
Then that's your unpopular opinion at that point. but then
I
I
hate
think
pickles.
now again, dill pickles. I don't do sweet pickles. I hate those. But dill pickles, like the stuff that it comes on Chick-fil-A sandwiches already. Popeyes has it on their sandwich. KFC
Mhm.
puts it on their chicken sandwich. I'll limit it to chicken sandwiches now because I guess there would be some
Burgers
sandwiches out there. I like it on burgers. Yeah,
and
yeah.
like how about a bologna sandwich?
I don't like bologna,
No,
so probably
no.
not.
Okay.
Um, but chicken sandwiches for sure, and I think most burgers. Some burgers don't need it. Like if you're, I don't know if you put it on like with barbecue sauce. You know, if you put
Yeah.
like barbecue
Um,
sauce on a burger, probably
yeah.
not a good mix. But pretty much any chicken sandwich. Like I like the spicy chicken sandwich. Pickles go great with it.
Mhm.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
I'll
would
give
be
you
my
that.
opinion.
I personally that's the first thing I do as a I don't even tell them to take it off. I get
You
their
take them
pickles
off.
and take them off and throw them in the bag. Um,
Well,
cause
I'll take them. I'll eat. I'll eat. I'll eat them every time.
um,
I love them.
I'll just throw out a bonus here. Just because we're on the real roll here of
Okay.
food. Takis are absolutely horrible.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
not a big fan. Not a big
okay,
fan.
people love them things.
I love hot Cheetos though, but
Uh,
um,
I'm
but
just not a
Takis,
big
yeah,
spicy guy, I guess.
I am. I love spice, but not the end of the line like you're
Yeah,
talking
see,
about.
those
But
people are just nuts. They're just attention seekers.
I think so too. It's for attention. Yeah, it's for attention.
So, anyway, continue here after that. If you guys, as well, not that I was going to bring it up again, but if you have any topics that you would like to
You're supposed to
discuss.
forgive them, man.
So, drop them down below if you have
Yeah,
any suggestions, or just anything you'd like to talk about that we would like to talk about,
yeah.
uh, that isn't, I guess, church and ministry related. Um, but on to our final thing, we want to talk about a little bit of the NBA Finals, which most likely will be done tonight, I think, at this point. Um,
I think the Mavs get tonight,
we'll
but
see.
we also both thought that the Mavs won the series.
I said the Mavs in five, and that's
That
just
was bad.
now.
I knew this would be close, but man, they have been in control the entire time. And it's not like the Mavs have had like chances. Like you have, I mean, Luka fouled out last game. If he doesn't foul out, they might pull that one out. Um,
Mhm.
but Kyrie had 30, I think, last game, or just under, if not. No, he had 34, I
I
think.
think he had
He had
20 in the
34.
first half though, or
He
something
did.
like.
He was back. So you have Luka and Kyrie combining for almost 60 points, and you still lose the game. You're not going to win. You're not going to win
That.
if your two guys score that much and you can't win a game. Um, I think that's what made LeBron and Kyrie so special. Because that Cavs team was very similar to this Mavericks team. I think. Now you did have Kevin Love. I think obviously Kevin Love would be the third best player on this Mavericks team. But they were they were star dominant. Two guys that had the ball in their hands a lot, dominant, very similar to this Mavericks team. But man, when they needed to win, they combined for 80 points. That game five, must win, down 3-1. They combined for 82 points. They both scored 41. They combined for 82
Insane.
points. I mean, it's insane. And the game was still close.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like it's blowout. The game is still close down the line. Um, so I think what's been so shocking to me is the same thing with basketball is as it is with boxing and fighting is styles and matchups make fights. Styles and matchups make games. And again, the Warriors, the 2017 Warriors, I think you put them against anybody, it didn't matter their style. They're going to beat everybody. I think that's the best team in history just because it's
Yeah.
just too much star power, too much um too much firepower in terms of shooting the ball. But I think that the Mavericks were perfect against the Timberwolves because the Timberwolves didn't have enough perimeter defenders. They did have Jalen McDaniels and Jaden McDaniels and Mike Conley, but just not enough to slow those top two guys down. And their
Yeah.
bigs were too slow. Whereas the Timberwolves against the Nuggets, you threw two bigs against Jokic, and that's why the Nuggets were able to beat the Lakers because the Lakers didn't have enough bigs. They just had Anthony Davis, and nobody else to really throw at Jokic.
Yeah.
So it's just all these teams are not necessarily better teams than the one before. I don't like that saying that the better team wins because that's not always the case. The better matchup won, and especially in a playoff series, when you find something that works, you just target that matchup. And unless you make the adjustment, you're done. I mean, there's just no coming back from it. And I think in the terms of the Celtics, with the Mavericks don't have a single answer for Jaylen Brown. They don't have a single answer for Jason Tatum. And then you have two elite defenders on the ball. Derek White, elite defender. Drew Holiday, elite defender. And they won't completely stop Kyrie and Luka, but they slow them down. And then you throw in Kristaps, which they didn't have last week, but a guy who's just a monster, can shoot the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's just cool to see those different matchup breakdowns. But we were very wrong. We were very
very wrong. I really feel for that because I haven't really been watching any of it. It's just
Yeah.
been kind of on weird nights, but the from what I'm seeing after the game, I mean it's just not a competition at this point.
No, I mean they're in control the entire game. Yeah.
So I think they'll win tonight. You think they'll?
I think the
win
Mavericks
tonight?
get one tonight, and then it'll be over in 5 in Boston.
Yeah.
But I've been wrong, so it
Yeah.
might be a sweep tonight. I don't know.
So I don't know, man. And Kyrie said that they would see him back in Boston, though. So, and for Game 5.
They better. They
So
better.
I don't know what they're gonna
If
do.
I was Kyrie, I wouldn't want to go back to Boston and lose in Boston. The things that would be said to him after they
Yeah.
lose.
No. But honestly, though, as Boston, I think I would rather win it in Boston, though. I mean, you get the sweep.
Oh, definitely.
Like, would you rather get the sweep or win in Boston?
Well, I think if you're Boston, you take the win when you can get it. I mean, obviously you'd like to do it in front of your home fans, but
Yeah.
if you give Luka and Kyrie any momentum, I know they've been in control, and I'm not saying they're going to come back down from 3-0. I'm not predicting that. I did predict it when LeBron was down 3-1 in 2016, but it was very delusional thinking. But I did believe it, and they did.
They did.
So, but for this year, I'm not predicting that at all. But anytime you give a team with two amazing world class scorers like that, you can't give them any room to breathe. So if you can get the win tonight, get the win, because you go back. If they get Game 5, it's anybody's series at that point.
Yeah.
You win game. I know it's down 3-0, but they win tonight, and then you let them get a Game 5 in Boston. You come back to Dallas in Game 6. I wouldn't bet against Kyrie in a Game 7.
It would be interesting.
It would be. So again, we're talking 3 games in the future. It probably is over
Probably
tonight.
not gonna happen.
But
Nah. I think it's tonight.
Yeah.
We will see. I've been focusing on a little bit of baseball.
I haven't been watching it as much. My Reds are doing okay.
Yeah. I'll be there in 2 weeks.
Are you?
And Reds and the Pirates. So
Yeah.
on our way up to Minnesota.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
And so with that, Brooks is going to be on vacation next week, doing his master's classes. I'm sure you're so excited for that.
Oh, so excited.
Not to ruin your time there.
Yeah, thanks for that.
But you are. But then we're on vacation at the same week after that. Not obviously together, but that we maybe have to happen sometime. But you never know.
I wish, man. Yeah, we need to.
But so we may not have Pastor's Coffee for a little bit, simply because due to that. But we'll make a post or something, let you all know. But yeah, thank you guys for checking out our Instagram page. It's been doing well. We appreciate that. Some of those followers on Instagram can come over to YouTube and
That'd be
subscribe.
appreciated. Yeah.
It'd be great not to mention it again, but
No, that was a different one. That was a different one.
this is different. This is different. But if you do want to comment down below and tell us the topic to talk about, that'd be great. Um, but we thank you guys again for listening. And next week, or maybe not next week, but our next episode will be episode 30.
Yeah.
Who would believe? So, but we will see you guys next week, and we thank you guys again for listening, and we hope you guys have a great week. Remember to love others as Christ loved you. So we'll see
Yep.
you guys next week.
Yep. See you all.